Union News, the 27th of August 2024. Welcome to Union News, your guide to what's happening in the union and labour movement in the UK. Reports are by Pat Harrington and music is by Tim Bragg. In this edition, fire service cuts spark safety alarm, FBU calls for urgent action, facing the future, Prime Minister Starmer's tough choices for Britain, Labour's pledge paralysis, the gig economy conundrum, energy bill surge, a call for fairness amidst rising profits, and finally, steel sector struggles, job losses loom as industry faces transformation.
Fire service cuts spark safety alarm, FBU calls for urgent action. The Fire Brigades Union, FBU, has sounded an alarm over the compromised safety of the British public, attributing the peril to substantial cuts in the fire and rescue services. A concerning 21% reduction in frontline firefighter roles has been reported over the last decade, translating to a loss of around 12,000 jobs. The situation is exacerbated by the fact that 4,000 firefighters are counted twice in the workforce figures due to holding dual contracts, painting a misleading picture of the actual manpower available for emergency response. The FBU has highlighted a troubling increase in response times to life-threatening fires, which now stand at an average of over 9 minutes, up from 6.11 minutes in 1995. This delay is partly due to the reduction of one-third of fire control staff, who are crucial for receiving emergency calls and deploying crews. The cuts have been felt deeply across various regions, with Buckinghamshire, West Yorkshire, Nottinghamshire, Greater Manchester, and London facing the most severe workforce reductions, with London alone losing 1,349 firefighters, marking a 22% decrease.
Facing the future, Prime Minister Starmer's tough choices for Britain. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, in a pivotal speech, has outlined a stark vision for Britain, acknowledging the severe economic challenges ahead. He emphasized the necessity for unpopular decisions to mend the societal and economic fissures. Starmer's rhetoric prepares the nation for a period of hardship, underscoring the gravity of the situation inherited from the previous administration. His message to the working people of Britain is clear: brace for impact, as the road to recovery will be arduous. Criticism has been swift, with accusations of Starmer insulting the British workforce by suggesting further economic strain. Opposition voices within the labour movement, such as Momentum, argue that the narrative of necessary austerity undermines the electorate's trust and the party's foundational principles. They assert that the government possesses ample means to foster societal transformation without compromising living standards. Amidst the controversy, the Labour government faces the colossal task of revitalising industry, rejuvenating public services, and restoring eroded living standards. TUC's Paul Novak echoes the sentiment that while there are no quick fixes, the commitment to a long-term strategy is paramount. The nation watches as Starmer navigates these turbulent times, balancing honesty with hope, and austerity with ambition. Labour's pledge paralysis, the gig economy conundrum. The Labour Party's New Deal for working people is facing criticism for its lack of clarity on gig economy worker rights. The Autonomy Institute has pointed out the party's retreat from a key commitment, establishing a single worker status. This move would have ensured gig economy workers were entitled to employee benefits, including national insurance and paid leave, aligning them with broader reforms such as fair wages and sick pay. Labour previously condemned the exploitation of gig economy workers as a significant economic blight, with these workers being some of the most vulnerable and underpaid in the UK. The think tank insists that Labour must maintain its initial proposal to merge various employment categories into one, to enact substantial and lasting reform. Without this, any advancements risk being undone by subsequent administrations. The party's determination to abolish zero-hour contracts is also in question, as earlier firm pledges appear softened. This wavering stance casts doubt on Labour's commitment to securing better conditions for gig economy workers, leaving the future of these reforms and the workers' security in a precarious balance. Amidst the rising challenges of climate change, which include frequent flooding, wildfires, and storms, the FBU's General Secretary Matt Rack has underscored the critical impact of 14 years of austerity on the fire and rescue services. The union is urgently calling on the Labour Party to prioritise investment in the fire and rescue services to safeguard public safety and ensure that the emergency services can respond effectively to the increasing demands of a changing climate.
Energy bill surge, a call for fairness amidst rising profits. As autumn approaches, UK households brace for a 10% increase in energy bills, as confirmed by the industry regulator. The price cap is set to rise from £1,568 to £1,717 starting October 1, pushing an additional 400,000 homes into fuel poverty, a total of 6 million, according to National Energy Action. Ofgem's chief, Jonathan Brearley, defends the hike, stating it allows energy firms to cover costs and make modest profits. However, this comes against the backdrop of energy giants amassing £470 billion in profits since 2020, with British Gas's profits soaring to £750 million last year. The profit surge has sparked outrage among the public and calls for energy to be taken from private hands. Unite's Sharon Graham criticises the stark contrast between the struggling masses and the flourishing energy sector. The government faces pressure to reverse its decision to cut winter fuel payments, previously available to all pensioners, now limited to those on pension credits or means-tested benefits. This move, deemed reckless by Age UK's Caroline Abrahams, risks leaving many vulnerable without support. The situation highlights a growing divide and prompts a debate on energy ownership and support for those in need. With profits soaring and winter approaching, the question remains: will the government and energy firms find a balance between business and social responsibility?
And finally, steel sector struggles, job losses loom as industry faces transformation. The UK steel industry is at a critical juncture as Labour's promises to safeguard steel jobs are proving untenable. The stark reality is that union leaders' decision to avoid strikes earlier in the year, placing faith in Labour leader Keir Starmer, may have been misguided. Now, with the threat of significant job losses at British Steel's Scunthorpe site, the call for industrial action is resurfacing. Jinya Group, the owner, is contemplating the cessation of blast furnace operations, potentially affecting 2,500 workers. This move comes amidst discussions with the government to reduce coal imports, signalling a shift in the industry's future. The potential closure of blast furnaces not only threatens jobs but also indicates a shift towards importing steel, primarily from China, which could replace the 3 million tonnes produced domestically. Jinya is seeking a substantial £600 million government grant to modernise its facilities, including the transition to electric arc furnace technology, aligning with decarbonisation goals. However, this transition is overshadowed by the immediate risk to jobs, especially as the Port Talbot Steelworks also faces cuts under Tata's ownership. Labour's response to the crisis has been cautious, with Starmer acknowledging the difficulty of the situation without offering false hope. Similarly, Labour's Welsh Secretary Joe Stevens has expressed a desire to protect jobs but recognises that redundancies are likely. This acknowledgement does little to quell the uncertainty faced by steelworkers and their communities as the industry stands on the precipice of change, with the government's role in this transformation becoming increasingly scrutinised.